Okay, Beshem Hashem Natseh V'Natzliach. It's great to be back here again in Great Neck, at Torah Or. Thank you so much for arranging this shiur. Bezat Hashem, the zechut of this shiur should be a protection for all Am Israel, should be a zechut of refuah shenema of all Chole Israel, especially Menashe, Ben Miriam, and whoever needs the refuah shenema, Bezat Hashem, should be a source of Beracha v'astacha for singers among Am Israel to find their Ben Zug, Bat Zug, and we should be so zoche to see Mashiach Sidrenu b'mhera b'yameinu. Amen. Okay, the topic of tonight's shiur is about Parnasa, livelihood. As we know, one of the most important concepts in Judaism is Parnasa, livelihood. Because as it says in Pirkei Avot, En qemach, en Torah. If there is not, qemach, there is no money, there is no means of, supporting yourself, paying bills, paying for tuition. You can't have Torah, you can't learn Torah. Many people only pay attention to this section of the Pirkei Avot and they don't read the rest. The rest says, Im en Torah, en qemach. If there is no Torah, there is no livelihood either. So there must be a balance when it comes to Parnasa. And we see a lot of people, they struggle when it comes to Parnasa. You see Tzaddikim, they struggle. You see people who, are not Shomer Torah, Mitzvot, they struggle. So what is the right remedy? What should we do? There is a lot of segulot, or Chazal, teach us a lot of things that one needs to do. I went to a lot of sources, including the teachings of Harav Eliyahu Netaneli Shlita, Harav Ben Ishchai, Avdi Ben Chaim Nechaim. There is a Ma'amar Parnasa in Pelei Yoetz, also that teaches us a lot of things to do. So Be'ezat Hashem, briefly, we're going to some of these important tips that will help us to have mezonot berevach, Parnasa berevach, beshefa, beracha v'astacha, be'ezat Hashem. Okay, our Chachamim teach us benei chaye u'mezoneh la v'zchuta ta'aliyah ella mazal, which means having children, having long life, livelihood. These are the things that are not necessarily dependent upon your zechut, merit. Obviously, merits and deeds play a big role in one's life. But these three categories are very much related to one's mazal. Now, what mazal really means, that's a different discussion, but mazal refers to one's luck, in what mazalot a person was born, what hour of the day he was born, right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that this individual should be born at this time to have certain mazal. There's certain times of the year there's a better mazal than the other times. There's certain times that there's a good mazal for one to have ashirut, to be ashir, to have a good livelihood, right? So that's benei, children, chayei is long life, and mezonei is parnasa. These are not dependent upon one's zechut necessarily, rather is based on one's mazal. For example, Ari Akadosh, Arizal, that most of the Torah sod that we have is from Arizal, and it's amazing. He only lived 38 years old. He was such a big tzaddik, and he had such a short life. Or Hachaim HaKadosh. Or Hachaim HaKadosh, that his Torah is unbelievable, is studied every day. He only lived 48 years old. Or there is a well-known Rav in Yerushalmi,
Let you decide at this point because no matter what I'm going to do.
Rabbi Bon, he lived only 28 years old.
But then again, at the same time, you're not going to. At the same time,
Or famous Rabbi Nachman Bereslev, he lived only 38 years old. So this comes to attest to the fact that it's not necessarily one's life, how many years he's going to live based on his deeds. Obviously, deeds make a difference. It's not your zechut necessarily, it's the mazal. Or some children, they don't have the mazal. They could be a big sadiq yesod olam, but nevertheless, they don't have any children. Lubavitcher Rebbe had no children. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli doesn't have children. Obviously, all of us are his children. All those that he prays for. Because of his prayers, many people have children. His blessings. So, we see from here that becoming rich has to do with your mazal. Now, they say a story from Rabbeinu Avraham ben Ezra, also known as Ibn Ezra. His Torah, his Pirush on the Torah is very famous. How much Torah and knowledge he had. It's unbelievable how much Torah and knowledge he had. So, they say, our Chachamim teach us that he was born in a mazal of being poor. That his mazal dictated that he should be poor. He was such a big tzaddik. But he was very needy, very much. One time there was a rich person who decided to give him a lot of money. So Harav Eliyahu Netaneli said over this story and he explained, what did he do? He took a bag, he filled it with gold coins, and whatever the currency of back then was, and he took it with himself. He took it to him, and the story goes like this: that by Ibn Ezra, after he took the money by his home and he put it right in front of his door, that as soon as he comes, he would see it and he would have this money. He didn't want to give it to him because he knew he would not accept it. He had that type of personality, or he didn't want to make him embarrassed. So he put it right there in the front of his home. And what happened is amazing. So Ibn Ezra came out. He came out from his home. His eyes were closed. He continued walking, and he ignored that bag of gold coins. So later, this rich man apparently wanted to find out what happened. I don't know if he witnessed it or not. So he approached. He found out if Ibn Ezra got that gift, that surprise present. So he asked, and he said, that day I decided to come out of my home with my eyes closed, and I didn't look. Sorry, didn't look. So he inquired, how come, Rebbe? How come you came out of your home, eyes closed? He said, because that day I had lots of difficulties. There were a lot of Yisurin, I was it was influencing me. I didn't have enough Hakarat Hatov. I wasn't appreciating Hashem enough. So I decided, in order to wake up myself, to see how much Hashem has done good to me, that I would act like a blind person, that I should come to praise Hashem's blessings of just seeing. So that's why I came out from my home, eyes closed. So we see from this story, even though that the money was brought to him, to his door, but if the mazal didn't dictate for him to have it, he didn't have it, he couldn't have it. Hashem put it in such a way that all these things should happen, that he would not come to see that bag of coins. This is mind-boggling, right? So we see this concept of Sadiq Veraro, Verashar, Letovro. A righteous person might go through a lot of difficulties. We see a lot of great Rabbanim, they struggle with money. Organizations, right? You just had a fundraiser. You know how difficult it is to fundraise, right? I experience it every day for my kolelim, for my organization. Very hard. You call, you don't get answer back. No. Baruch Hashem, I'm Israel. They are very kadosh. They are always into helping other organizations. So sometimes they can't afford it. But why is that? So one time, Panovich Rav went to Chazanish. Panovich Rav his goal was to build the Panovich Yeshiva, and it was not easy, especially back then. So he asked Chazanish, how come it is so difficult for us to raise money for HaKadosh Baruch Hu? For HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's so easy that he would send us a rich person. How much you want? Here, check. So he went to Chazanish, he asked, how come hospitals have so much money? Universities have so much money, right? And we who are Mamlechet Kohenim Ve'Goy Kadosh, Am Segula, we need to go through so much difficulties. Raising money, opening our hands to accept money from others, right? So Chazanish explained, let me tell you something. There is a mitzvah of Are Michlat, that when a Yehudi commits murder unintentionally, he needs to go to cities of refuge to safeguard himself from the family, that they should not come kill him. And once he goes to the Are Michlat, where the Levim live, he is protected. So by Are Michlat, we see that there were all sorts of signs in Eretz Israel. Go right, left, Yashar, till they would reach to Are Michlat. But by another mitzvah, Aliyah Regel, by Sharosh Regalim, there were no signs. Absolutely no signs. So ask Chazanish, why there is such a difference? Why by Are Michlat these unintentional killers have such an easy time to go find out where they need to go, and by those who want to come to save Hashem, to bring Korbanot, Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, right? Other times that they need to come to Yerushalayim, there is no signs. So obviously, the Peshat, basic understanding would dictate to you that Hashem has Rahmanut, Hashem has mercy to these unintentional killers. And that's why Hashem doesn't want them to get embarrassed to ask others where to go. So there are signs, but that's just the Peshat. What is the sod behind this? The sod explains Chazanish. When there is a Sadiq who wants to go to Yerushalayim for Sharosh Regalim, when there is no signs, what is he going to do? He's not going to take out his GPS, where is Yerushalayim? There is no maps, right? Maybe even with maps, it's not 100%. You need to ask around. So what would that do to you? That would make you to raise the awareness to others that you're going to do a mitzvah. And others would become aware of your mitzvah. They will be encouraged to follow you, to also go to Ariyat Regel, to go to Yerushalayim, right? So experience Chazanish. That's the whole notion behind this. Hashem makes it difficult for non-profit organizations, yeshivot, Batei Knesset, all the good causes, right? that they should ask others to encourage them to become your partner. That they should also see what you do. Oh, Rabbi, you do that? That's amazing. Here I support you. Oh, Rabbi, I know someone who has a problem with intermarriage. Maybe you could connect him. Maybe you can contact him. Maybe you can make him do bichozet b'tshuva. So all of these things, Hashem wants us not to have everything easy, especially when it comes to Parnasah, that we be mezakir rabin, that they should also partake in that mitzvah. Now that's why it's the tzaddikim, right? So Harav Eliyahu Netaneli, as well as many Rabbanim, they explain Sadiq veralo Yasha Sadiq veralo Rasha vetovlo. That why is that? By Parnasa. Sometimes these Reshaim, may Hashem help those Reshaim who are Yehudi to be Chose b'tshuva. They do one mitzvah, one act of mitzvah. Let's say they would do act of kivud avim, but they are very rasha. They do all sorts of bad things. They steal money. Right? So what Hashem will do? Hashem will pay them in this olam. They get the reward for kivud avim fully in this world. So they would have, big homes, a lot of money in accounts, right? But no beracha. Hashem pays them, and Hashem tells them, leave me alone. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to give you sechar in the world to come. Right? It's very difficult. That's one explanation that we need to understand. How come it's so difficult? Now, also on the other hand, Sadiqim, Hashem gives them what they need. Right? We're not asking Hashem to make us millionaires, right? Hashem that's not necessarily what we're asking. We want to have that which we need to pay for the bills, right? To have a safe car, to pay for the tuitions, to pay for the mortgage, hopefully to have a good chatuna, semachot, right? Decent, right? Not to waste our money, obviously. But still it's difficult. So what Hashem would do for Tzaddikim, Hashem gives them Parnasah, that they do not need to spend money to cure sickness. That they do not have to go through lawsuits. They would not need to go through divorce and all sorts of difficulties, right? Not necessarily, although people who have challenges, they don't have the bracha. There's always different reasons. There is different things that our neshama needs to achieve through that difficulty. Right? It needs to do certain tikkunim. Right? So Harav Eliyahu Netaneli explains, if there is a mazal involved with our neshama, but there is always things that we can do not to lose that which our mazal will bring us, or perhaps to improve our mazal. Because as we know, a Yehudi could potentially become higher than his mazal. What Avraham Avinu reached. Harav Eliezer ben David Alav Shalom always used to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu, I'm going to make you a great nation. Avraham Avinu answered back to Hashem, but I've seen in mazalot, I am not going to have any child. Hashem said, come, I show you. And Hashem took him above the mazalot. Hashem said, no, mazal will not apply to you. Even though that you were born in a mazal that will not allow you to have a child, right? For you, I will make an exception. So there could be things that a person could do. Apparently, maybe I'm not 100% sure about this, because then this would be against that which we explained in the beginning, that Bnei Chayei Umezoneh is Talia. Is Talia b'mazal, not the zechut. So something that we need to further research. Now, we need to do things not to lose. There is this gezerah, well-known gezerah lo aleinu, that in every family there would be an ani. Every family. Let's say Mishpachat Reuveni, they would have somebody who will become a beggar. or Mishbachat Shimoni, Lo Aleinu, would have somebody who would become a bigger. So our Chachamim teach us, what can you do to make yourself exempt from such a gezerah? You give tzedakah. When you give tzedakah as much as you can, you protect yourself and your family, that there would not be ani coming from your family. Now, tzedakah is one of the things that has segula to help a person to become ashir, especially the mitzvah of ma'aser. Our Chachamim teach us ma'aser shenit asher, that one should separate ma'aser and he can even test Hashem. It's one of the only things that one could do to test Hashem, to see that he becomes rich. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli always used to say this, and I know few families in LA that they did it, and Baruch Hashem, they're doing great in real estate now. They're doing great. They give maaser, they help other mostot. Baruch Hashem, they are shomer Torah mitzvot. Right? So, according to Vinna Gaon, Gaon Mevinna, maaser should be 20%, not 10%. And this is the opinion of Harav Eliyahu ben David alav shalom. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli also says the same. According to many Sfaradim, should be 20%. Now, how would you do that? A person needs, when he makes his net profit, he should separate. Let's say he makes $1,000, he should separate $100, put it on the side. The best is to have a special account for that. You transfer money, right? After taxes, you transfer money, right? So that 10%, the first 10% needs to go for community needs. Shuls, orphanage, homes, yatomim, almanot, right? The needs of the community, yeshivot, non-profit organizations, right? Now the other 10%, you also should deduct. So would be $200 out of $1,000. That's a lot of money. What can you do with the second 10%, right? But what one could do, he can spend that money for his own needs. Mezuzah, tefillin. He can buy Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. He can buy mezuzah. He can buy mehuda sisit. Right? He can buy sefarim. The second percent you can. The second 10% you can. Right? Yeshivot, tuition. Right? So that's something that, Oh, there's a discussion that is not the same. There is a discussion that is not, but that we're not getting into that. For girls, is much easier to use the maaser, right, than boys, because for boys you have the obligation. You have the obligation of teaching Torah. That's a separate discussion. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli brings from Poskim that until 6 years old, a child, right, is considered so much in need that one's parents can even give 20%, right, of what they have for that child, right? But after that, there is the obligation upon the parents to teach Torah and mitzvot. So would become the second 10% that can be used for tuition. Some say the second 10%, right, must be used only for boys, but according to some, no, the second 10% can be used for girls too. Okay, now there is a famous recommendation of Rava, the famous Rava in the Gemara. Rava always used to tell his Talmidim that they should respect their wives. Talmidim, students should respect their wife. Why? Because our Chachamim teach us, one's wife one's wife brings Shekhinah in one's home. If there is Shalom in one's home, right, there is Shekhinah. There is the letters of Hashem. Ish ve'isha, if there is Shalom, there is Yud and Hey. If there is no Shalom, it becomes Eish. Right? Ish is Aleph, Yud, Shin. Isha has a Hey in the end. Chas v'Shalom, if there is no Shalom, then it would be Eish, it would be fire. Right? So one who respects his wife, he would bring himself Shefa, Beracha, V'Astacha, and Hashem will be found in his home. Shekhinah will be there, and once Shekhinah is there, Shekhinah's presence will bring Beracha. Another segula for having Parnasa Tova is that one who makes Beracha, right, would say Beracha slowly, paying attention to Hashem's name. Baruch Atah Hashem. When it becomes to the name of Hashem, right, should have kavanah. Adon Akol Aya Uve Be'yeh. Right, that Hashem is the master of all. He was, He is, and He will be our Hashem. And when it comes to the name of Elokeinu, which is another name of Hashem, Yud Ke Vav Ke is the name of Rachamim, and Elokim is Din. One should have in mind that Hashem is the source of all the powers. All the powers belong to Him. So one who has kavanah in this will bring Shekhinah. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli explains every time that you have such a kavanah, you make yourself a malach. Now, many people think this is chumrah. This is halakha in Shulchan Aruch. One should have this in mind. Now, this card could be a chumrah. Shulchan Aruch doesn't say you should have a card like this, but it says you need to understand it. You need to, imagine, right? You need to understand it. But obviously, if one could use the sidurim that brings this next to the name of Hashem, or use such a card, that would be very helpful. That brings Shefa Beracha. One who, so again, we go back, one who respects his wife would have a lot of blessings. It's very important, right, Bezat Hashem, that one respects wife, right, and Gemara teaches us, before one's marriage, there is no beracha, right? A person doesn't have simcha, doesn't have beracha, doesn't feel safe, right? Feels lacking. So, in the times of Rambam, Rabbeinu Moshe ben Maimon alav shalom, he teaches us that back then one had to have some sort of work, and one would have a house and then would get married. But these days it's very difficult to do that. Some people are trying to do this in Los Angeles, right, in Beverly Hills, rich people, and they end up getting married very late. Right? By the time that they become professional and they buy a good car and house and everything with high expectations, they become 40, 45 years old, and it's one of the marriage crises is because of this. Unfortunately, a lot of boys become professional and girls become professional, and the girls say, "Oh, we doctor, we PA, we make this much money. How can we get married to a husband who is just a businessman?" They put down the businessman. They don't understand, and unfortunately, if they don't get married, then it would be more difficult to get married, unfortunately. And boys become picky. Oh, we don't want to get married to somebody who is turning 40, because doctors say that 40 years old becomes risky to get to have children. No, it's not true. I'm not a doctor, but we've seen so many, families that Baruch Hashem, they have healthy children after age of 40. Right? So, but there are a lot of obstacles. So one should try to get married when he has right plans. I remember Harav Eliyahu Netaneli from one of my rabbeim in Israel Yeshiva used to give us a Tova recommendation that you have a plan in making a livelihood Parnasa, and Hashem will help you. You have a plan. Not necessarily you making so much money, but you have a plan. And with that, with some savings, go get married, and Hashem will help you with Parnasa. And I've seen it, many Avrechei Kolel, many of my fellow friends, they came from yeshiva with that mindset, and now they have big families. Hashem has helped them. They could be in Kolel, they could be helping as Rabbanim, they could be businessmen, but they follow this method, this Esa Tova, and Baruch Hashem. They got married early, and they have Parnasah, they have Shalom Bayit, they have children. May Hashem make it easy for us. Right? So another thing that this is also Harav Eliyahu Netaneli is very makpid about this. He recommends to everyone is modest. One who is modest at home, right? Men and women, right? One should change clothing, not in the bedroom, not in the living room, chas v'shalom. Especially where you have mezuzot and they are in a clear cover, it's a big problem, right? So it's a disrespect to Sepharim, one who is not dressed in front of Sepharim, right? So much so that there's a story by Arizal, that one time Arizal saw from the house of Rabbeinu Najjar, alav shalom, one of the famous Rabbanim who has a lot of poems, right? That the Malachim from his house, all of a sudden they departed, and Arizal was able to see it from window. So he understood that something must have happened. He sent a messenger. What did you do that the Malachim left you? And he sent, that time of the day was a very warm time. It was hot weather. So I pulled my sleeves up. Arizal said, because of that, you were, according to your level, you were not so much modest. When the sleeves up, your malachim departed. So one is to keep siniut at home. There are those who always make sure by shacharit they cover their hand, right, with jacket, with sleeve, with sisit, right? At home, husband and wife, they need to dress, go to closet or go to your restroom. Children as well, right? Person needs to train the children from early time that they should do it, right? This way Shekhinah remains in your home. Now, very important, many people don't know this. According to Zohar HaKadosh, and we see from Gemara that Yochanan, Kohen Gadol, that from him Hashmonaim came, and he was such a big Kohen Gadol. In the end of his time, his years, he became he became acher. They say why? Because he had something. Right? Oh no, that's the different story. No, there was another. I correct myself. There was another Kohen Gadol who had children. That all of their children became Kohen Gadol. So they asked their mother, "What's the chut?" So the mother said, "Because none of the walls of my home ever saw my hair. In this zechut, she had banim talmidei chachamim that they became Kohen Gadol." So according to Zohar HaKadosh, even one's wife needs to have his hair covered all the times at home. It's difficult, but there are those who do it, and it's very rewarding. They have banim talmidei chachamim. They have Parnasa berevach. They don't have other difficulties. Many times the husband are the ones who are forcing it. Oh, I want to see your beauty. Right? Obviously, it needs to be in a way that is understanding two parties. There's a madriga, but there is such a madriga. If one can attain it, it's very good. And this comes to explain that pe'ah nochrit, wig, according to us Sephardim, is not a proper cover. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli is against it. Many Ashkenazi Rabbanim are against it. Harav Shlomo Zalman Urbach, alav shalom, was against it. Harav Eliyahu Shalom was against it. Lubavitcher Rebbe used to recommend people not to wear wigs in order to have beracha v'aslacha. The stories brought. Many other big Talmidei Chachamim, especially today, that wigs have the problem of hair that was offered to Avodah Zarah. There's a lot of study done that this still is going on. I myself spoke to Diane Donner from England, and he told me he knows only one place that they seemingly do a good hashgacha. So how can one place do such a hashgacha for so many weeks? And there are studies done that shows that unfortunately this whole shtick that they do, they send it to Europe, they market, they brand it there, and they send it to the United States. There's a lot of money involved, so they know how to treat people. So one should encourage wife, especially us Sephardim, not to wear wigs, instead to use mitbachat, to use other hats or other source of head covering, right? And this way he's going to save so much. Instead of paying $3,000, how much? $1,500, $3,000, $5,000 per week, and each time they need to clean it, $400, $500. I don't know what the price is. Baruch Hashem, I never dealt with it, right? This money goes for Talmidei Chachamim, for children, tuition, so many other things, right? Go to Yerushalayim for Chagim, right? So much. So we explained about Beracha with Kavanah. Another thing that is very important, will help us a lot, is that one needs to refrain from anger. One who becomes angry, unfortunately, he loses the beracha. Not only he loses beracha, he is compared to Oved Avodah Zarah. And one should not look at the person who is angry. Right? He loses beracha. So one needs to be very careful to stay away from anger. It's the source of many, many problems, anger. Especially takes away beracha. Right? So that's important to keep in mind. Now we're going through some other segulot from Sefer Segulot Israel. Segulot Israel brings a lot of segulot. So briefly we're going to go through some of these segulot. Parnasa segula le Parnasa. So one needs to be la'atmid belimud Torah. One needs to be qova itim beTorah, always learn Torah. Ve'agid bo yom v'layla, days and nights, right? Our Chachamim teach us the majority of one's Torah learning comes from night learnings, and one should not lose even one night of learning, right? Tefillah al-Parnasa. One needs to pray for his success for Parnasa. He needs to pray. Shelo yeshom shakranut, that he should not trick people. Right? I remember in Baltimore, one time I wanted to look into buying cars, so I went to a very yashar person. I can tell you his name, Rabbi Balachani from Baltimore, Elion Motors. Everyone knows him from Baltimore. So he told me there are certain cars that they make the cosmetics so good, but the engine is so bad. Or there are cars, right, that they once got total, or they got some sort of salvage. What is it? Salvage title, right? And a person might not know and go get such a car. They cannot give him insurance, right? They cannot get insurance, all sorts of problems, right? One needs to stay away from those types of business that he deals with sheker. Because when there is sheker, when there is trickeries, when one lies, there is no bracha. He might be making money so easy, but he might lose it so easy. As they say in Farsi, bad avarande ra bad mibarad. That which wind brings, wind blows it away, right? Takes it away, right? So we said Maaser is very important. Now, one who is need and he cannot pay Maaser, he needs to say Beli Neder. Let's say he wants to get Tzedakah. He just made a kabod. He should say Beli Neder, because if once he doesn't say Beli Neder, then if he's delaying it, right, it would be very costly for him. Especially one who makes a kabod, he needs to write it down. The best is to write a check, put it on the side. As soon as you have money, give it to your cause. That this way you don't forget. And according to Sod, there is a malach that is created with the mitzvah of your maaser. You just deducted, or kabod Torah that you made. This malach is created, and this malach stays with you until you pay it. Why you want to keep this malach? Let him go and do other good things that needs to go. So how can you do that? You write a check, even you put it on the side, or you put the money in the envelope, you put it on the side. That helps this malach to go and do other good things, right? So that's important. The mitzvah of tzedakah, the mitzvah of maaser, the mitzvah of maaser is deducting. One could delay giving it, and one can borrow from the maaser that he collected, he deducted, and then pay himself back if he needs from the second maaser, not the first maaser. From the second 10% he can borrow, right? Segula leParnasa leoshe bechavod. Harav Agadosh Maran Chida. Harav Chida teaches us. Zichronan Livracha. Nimsa Katuv Benisuse Orot. And Zohar Agadosh brings Parashat Vayeghal Levarech Bikat Hamazon Beqorram. To say Bikat Hamazon, that you hear. Right? Beside the fact, if you don't say Bikat Hamazon, that you don't hear it, is Midarabanan, becomes Midarabanan. According to some, you're not Yosef. You must hear it. Deoraita is a mitzvah deoraita. Tefillah is midarabanan. Birkat Hamazon, ve'achalta ve'savata u'varachta is mideoraita. Say it with simcha. Arizal teaches us the biggest important thing to make a person to become closer to Hashem is doing mitzvot besimcha. So have bread. How much bread makes you to say Bikat Hamazon mideoraita? Kabetza. Kazait, right, is midarabanan. For kabetza we wash with Birkat Netilat Yadayim. Less than that we wash, kazait we wash without beracha. Right? So one needs to be careful to have kabetza. סגולה לפרנסה, לא אומר בכל מוצאי שבת קודש ויתן לך אלוקים. There is a section, ויתן לך אלוקים. It's very good to say it. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli just says it. Right? Section of Eliyahu Hanavi. Right? Right? Rabbi Mendel, Zichrono Livracha, Rav Mendel says, not sure. Right? Zechurot Yagen Aleinu. Another segula for Parnasa is Katub Besefer Be'er Chaim. Beshem Rav Kadosh Echad, Zichrono Livracha doesn't say the name of the Mechaber, the author. Lesaper Bechol Mosai Shabbat Chodesh is the Uvda Merabenu Akadosh Hatahor Mashiach Hashem Maran Baal Shem Tov. Say the story of Baal Shem Tov on Mosai Shabbat. Is the segula for Parnasa Tova. Mosai Shabbat. Zechutah Yagen Aleinu. Parnasa. נוהגים כמה אנשי מעשה לומר מזמור כ"ד בתהילים. מזמור 24 in Psalms, right? לדוד מזמור להשם הארץ ומלואה וכולי. To say this mizmor, some say it every day, right? After tefillah, some have a minhag to say it, right? with kavanah. סגולה נפלא לפרנסה בכל יום בוקר, יאמר פסוק זה מעשר שמנה לחמו והוא ייתן מעדני מלך. To say this pasuk of Asher, because Asher refers to ashirut, oil, right? That we should also become rich like Asher, right? Yaakov Avinu's son, right? How many times? It says 10 times. This one pasuk 10 times, right? Eser Pa'amim, and says the Segula says, say it 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the Erev, right? And also say Mizmor Tehillah LeDavid Ashrei Yoshev Betecha Shalosh Pa'amim. And when you come to the section of Poteach et Yadecha U'Masbiach Lecho Chayrason, you open your hands, you don't raise your hands. Open your hands as if to indicate that Hashem is opening his hands to give us beracha. Obviously Hashem has no hands and it's just for us to understand. Right? So, Poteach et Yadecha U'Masbiach Lecho Chayrason, that's the Segula, right? For beracha, that one should do it 3 times and understand what he says. Parnasa, Segula Parnasa, Limot Torah Utefila, Beishmerot Habogel, Kolel Chasot. Right? Get up early, learn Torah. Right? Obviously, as what Rabbeinu Bechaye writes, Zichrona Livracha, Beparashat Bo, right? That this helps a lot. That it says in Masechet Berachot. It says in Masechet Berachot, Shalosh Mishmarot Hayo Balayla. That there are 3 Mishmarot 3 times of the night. Right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, roars like a lion on Chorban Beit HaMikdash. Right? And these times are very misugal for prayers, especially one who mourns over the destruction of Beit HaMikdash. Zohar HaKadosh talks about this Tikkun Chasod so much. That Tikkun Chasod, getting up early, learning early, helps so much. According to Rashash, 1 hour of learning Torah after Chasod Alayla, these days is after 12 or 7, right? Is 1 hour is equal to 100 hours of daily limud Torah. So Mekubalim, they don't waste their time at night. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli Sherita learns Torah mostly at night. He rests during the day. He learns. Baruch Hashem, we are zoche to have Kolel Chasod once a week. Night of Thursday night. Yesod, very difficult. We started at 3 a.m. till morning. Very difficult, very rewarding. Very brings the ashirot. According to Sod, one should not be sleeping at the time of Chasod. Right? This is very high level, because at the time of Chasod, right, there is a shefa of beracha that comes. So one should be awake to receive the shefa beracha, and one who is awake would not be receiving tum'ah. There is a certain tum'ah that comes, impurity that comes to a person who is sleeping at the time of Chasod. So one who needs to go sleep earlier can go sleep earlier and set clock to wake up at Chasod and then go to sleep. In this way, he would not be receiving that tum'ah, according to Harav Eliyahu Netaneli, right? Some do that. Some they go sleep after 12 or 7, after Chasod Alayla, right? Harav is awake that time, and many times he continues learning from Chasod till morning. Till morning is 12 or 8, right? Last night was 12 or 7, right? Maybe your time is based on Rosny. Maybe. Here is great news. Right? Right. So, yes, so this is important, to learn Torah that time. Right? Shuv Masati Besefer Be'amer Abraham. Halomed B'Sha'ot Achronot B'Layla. Yesh Lo Mezonot B'Revach. Also, learning late at night. That also helps. If you cannot learn after midnight, okay, learn nighttime. They say, Zohar HaKadosh says, Lo Aleinu, if there is a home that the Kol Torah is not heard, that home would be, it says Kol Torah is not heard at night. That home will consume in fire, Lo Aleinu. So one needs to learn Torah at night. It's great, you go Beta Knesset, you learn halakha, this, that, but learn at home. Another segula for Parnasah, right, is segula for Parnasah. Parnasa, 1 second here. That one should not be stand still doing nothing. Doing nothing also could mean playing video games, wasting your time, right? Our Chachamim teach us, Talmud Torah keneget kulam. Bitul Torah keneget kulam. There is no avera worse than wasting one's time. So if one needs to rest, okay, that's understandable. Harav Eliyahu Netaneli teaches us, you need to go work, you need to rest, right? Before you work, say L'Shem Yichud, that my work should be a source of Parnasa to pay the bills, to be a proud Jew, right? Yehudi, that Hashem, right, is proud of, right? You need to rest, say Hashem, I'm going to rest to have koach, to learn, to become Eved Hashem, and this way your sleep becomes not Bitul Torah. It becomes like a something as preparations for Limud Torah. Becomes a mitzvah, right? So that's important to keep in mind. Another segula. לקיים בכל מוצאי שבת חודש סעודת מלווה מלכה. Every Mosai Shabbat, make sure to have Seudat Milave Malka. Our Chachamim teach us, right, that based on Shlomo HaMelech, David HaMelech, many big Chachamim, that Bedru Yehuda HaNasi, alav Shalom, the Seudah of Milave Malka is the most important Seudah of the whole week. Many people don't know this. I remember Harav Eliyahu ben David alav Shalom, right, used to have Seudat Menave Malka right after Havdalah, right away. Also is brought in Sefer, a biography of Harav Chaim Kanievsky alav Shalom, Zechuto Yagen Alenu, that he also has Seudah right away, right? So to have a Seudah and have a good Seudah, right? Not necessarily have meat because it's late. They say it's best to have fish. Maybe there's some salt involved, right? To have fish, right? So have the Seudah Menave Malka. Remez Dadava. What is the remez? Im Kesef. Remez lekesef leParnasa. Talve Maaseh Seudat Menave Malka. Et Ani, and give from that Seudah to the Ani person, to somebody who is in need, right? Have the invite the Ani over. Ani gets invited for Shabbat Seudot easily. What about Menave Malka? Nobody cares, right? Bring the Ani home, right? Some call it Seudat Mashiach ben David. And also it helps with bringing Geulah. According to Sefer Devarim Arvim, Beshem. Another segula for Parnasa. After this shiur, everyone will be rich. Amen. We should have what we need. I tell you, I want to talk about bottom of my heart. I know a family, they were very, very rich in Iran, in Tehran. They lost a lot of their money. But they lost it. They had emunah and bitachon to Hashem. They lost it and it was all for good. Because if they had the money, they would have gone to California, to a place in San Francisco that there was no Torah, no mitzvot. Hashem took away the money, but Hashem gave them real life. That this way, they didn't have much money, so they, instead of California, they went to East Coast. They ended up going to Baltimore. And Hashem helped them, right, to have the real Ashirut, Torah mitzvot, right? So a person needs to understand, not having so much money in the account is not necessarily Ashirut. I know a lot of families, right? They have a lot of money, but while they are alive, they are going through Chas v'Shalom Gehinam. They could be Shomer Torah and Mitzvot, but they having a lot of difficulties, right? Children fight over, right, their money while their parents are alive. They fight over, oh, Abba, Ima, father, mother, daddy, whatever, Tati. Why are you giving us only $1 million, $5 million? It's not enough. Right? They need to change the trust. They need to go through all of the difficulties. And those who have a lot of money, constantly they are in fear of getting sued. Right? They have to pay a lot of money for attorneys. Right? Because people know they are rich. And there are these attorneys and lawyers. There is no lawyers here. Right? They find these rich people. So they file lawsuits. There is a well-known lawyer in California that goes and finds rich people, and he finds parking spots that weren't properly marked for handicapped, and he brings them he files a lawsuit, brings them to courts. So the rich people don't want to go through courts, so they settle $10,000 easy. Right? Pay $10,000 check. This guy gets a $10,000 check. One lawsuit. There's a lot of problem. Not necessarily you think you have a lot of money and you accumulate money after money, no maaser. You think you reach, you don't pick up the phone on the rabbi to give your maaser. No, it's gonna go away from another way. Chas v'shalom. Right? It's better that a person gives money, tzedakah and maaser, and safeguards himself and his family. Right? So another Parnasah, right, that a person should say Yomar Shivim Pa'amim Bechol Mosai Shabbat Kodesh Eliyahu Hanavi. To say Eliyahu Hanavi Zachol Latov Hanavi Zachol. I had a roommate in Yeshiva at Israel. Baruch Hashem, he's a big Talmid Chacham, and he became very rich also. Big Talmid Chacham and rich. He says in Gemara that two shulchanot, having two tables, is very difficult, but Hashem has given to him. He used to always say Eliyahu Hanavi, right, 70 times, and Musa, it says 70 times here. Maybe that's another segula.
What do you say 7 times?
It says Yom HaShivim Pa'amim Bechol Mosai Shabbat Chodesh Eliyahu Hanavi, 70 times.
You say Eliyahu Hanavi?
Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi Zachol Latov, Eliyahu Hanavi Zachol Latov. There is another segula 101 times. That's Michael. 130. Yeah, my mistake. 130. That's another segula. I don't know what that is. This is 70 times. Yes. I think he used to say 130 times. I don't remember. I think he used to say. He used to count it with his fingers. He used to make fun of him. You do it? Okay, very nice. Baruch Hashem. So, well, obviously one needs to be botech by Hashem. Sometimes I tell you, this is also big nekuta. We need to understand. Sometimes the answer of our tefillot is no. Sometimes Hashem sees if you have a lot of money, He might do things that are not good. Right? Instead of living in New York next to Torah, or you might go live, in Bahamas. Chas v'shalom. And you say, okay, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to have my own kollel, bet HaKnesset, Rabbot, Machshavot, Velevish, V'asad Hashem Itagum. Right? You have a lot of thoughts, but Hashem will make it that which is good for you, hopefully happen. Right? And Satan comes many times, he tricks you. Oh, you'll be different. You'll be Sadir Yesod Olam. Right? So a person needs to be very careful. Right? Harav Eliyahu ben David alav shalom used to say, who is more poor? A person who needs $1 or a person who needs $10 million? Who is more poor? He used to say the person who needs $10 million is more poor. Right? You could be happy with something minute. You could somehow get it over. But if you need a lot, I know a family lost $200 million. And unfortunately, it's going through a lot of difficulties. Very difficult. Segular Parnasa, yeah, so I want to end with a Maaseh story. Now, yeah, I know you want to hear about masters of Harav Eliyahu Netaneli Shalita. So I tell you one, I mentioned before that there was this family that Harav told them to give master and they became rich. So that's important. Another story, and I end with this, is that they bring Beshem, one of the Gedolim. I forgot his name, unfortunately, right now. I must be tired. That he made a sabah, he made a will, that I want my money to be used for my children to get married, to have a decent marriage, and maybe for the first few years of Kolel, and after that, right, whatever is left over, give it to tzedakah. And this was coming from a Rav, right? So apparently this family, I forgot the name unfortunately. Apparently this family had a lot of girls. So they used the money to marry off the girls, right? And the rest they gave it to tzedakah. So one of these girls got married to Harav Yitzchak Ruderman, alav shalom, who became one of the pillars of Torah in Ner Israel Yeshiva, the first Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Israel in Baltimore, Harav Yitzchak Ruderman, alav shalom. And they explained perhaps because their father made such a sabah that the money should be used for good things, right? So Be'ezrat Hashem, maybe have Parnasa berevach, beshalom, right? Maybe see a lot of siyata dishmaya, that as it says in Perek Hamishi, right, of Masechet Berachot, maybe have the main and ikar work in Torah and Mitzvot, as Rabbeinu Eliezer Papa alav shalom says in Ma'amar Parnasa, that we should not cut corners on tefillah b'sibur. We need to always make sure to daven tefillah b'sibur. Also, Harav Ben Ishchai, I forgot to mention, Harav Ben Ishchai, in his Sefer, Parashat Mishpatim, Davar Beito Matov, you said about Parnasa district Parashat Mishpatim, talks about Parnasa, says Zon. Zon is Gematria 57. He explains, Eizeu Avodah Shebelev is the tefillah. You daven 3 times a day, each time is Shemoneh Esrei, right? Is actually, is not Shemoneh Esrei, is 19. So 3 times 19 is 57, is the Gematria of Zon, is the Gematria of Dagon. Hashem gives you Parnasa, Zon, Umefarnes Kulam, Zon is also 57, right? So that's what we need to have in mind. Parnasa is tefillah, we do our best, and then Hashem will take care of the rest. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen, V'Amen. Be'ezrat Hashem, this shiur should be a zechut for refuah shlema of Menashe ben Miriam.